Recently, a new product, steamed Dabai, has been introduced to Chinese food series. Before the 20th National Congress of the Chinese Communist Party, the internal struggle between CCP's top factions intensified, and there were rumors that Chinese Prime Minister Li Keqiang took over the top power and Xi Jinping stepped down. Let's analyze. Chinese food has been popular around the world. Recently, some people in Shanghai have developed a new dish, steamed Dabai. These steamed Dabai dim sums are made of flour. They're lying neatly in the steamer, wearing blue masks, blue gloves, and isolation suits. They look lifelike. Dabai is the name people used for the epidemic prevention and control workers. For the people living in the lockdown and control zones, Dabai are the ones who stab them deep in the throat with long cotton swabs every day, block the doors of their homes to prevent them from going out to buy supplies, enter their homes and spray disinfectant on everything, including foods in the fridge, spray disinfectant on open streets where had no pedestrians or cars, forcibly took people away for isolation, and carried guns to maintain order. In short, Dabai are the direct enforcers of the zero-COVID policy and the ones responsible for creating troubles in people's lives. It is believed that making and eating Dabai dim sum is a way people express their hatred toward the zero-COVID policy and the Dabai. 808 years ago, during the Southern Song dynasty, when Yue Fei, a famous and respected general, was persecuted and killed by the traitor Qin Hui, people then expressed their hatred for Qin Hui and his wife by making a snack called fried hui. It quickly became a famous dish and is still very popular nowadays. In China, because of the strict censorship of speech by the CCP, people dare not to speak out their true thoughts. If someone says something the CCP doesn't like, they're likely to have their social media accounts blocked, be invited to drink tea by the police, and be persecuted in prison. Even senior officials like Premier Li Keqiang dare not to say something directly, but can only express his thoughts by behavioral art. On May 18th, Li Keqiang visited Yunnan. From the video circulating on the internet, we can see that Li Keqiang, his entourage, and the people around him are not wearing masks. The Chinese current affairs commentator Li An said that, obviously, Li Keqiang did it on purpose. It's possible for one person to forget wearing a mask, but all the people not wearing masks is intentional. Commentators generally believe that Li Keqiang was using behavioral art to express his dissatisfaction with the CCP's zero-COVID policy. Let's talk about the power struggle between the top-level officials of the CCP. In the second half of this year, the CCP is going to hold its 20th National Congress, which will involve top-level leadership arrangements, intensifying the recent struggle between various factions at the top of the CCP. For years, Li Keqiang, the second-in-command of Chinese politics, has been marginalized by Xi Jinping. However, since early May, the official media has raised the profile of Li Keqiang on several occasions. Because news reports in major official media are strictly scrutinized, there is widespread speculation that Li Keqiang's status within Communist Party is rising and Xi Jinping's is declining. In early May, a series of overseas self-media reports claimed that Xi Jinping had been forced to cede power to Li Keqiang in a coup, and that Xi Jinping would publicly abdicate and announce his resignation at the 20th National Congress. On May 11th, the Wall Street Journal reported that Li Keqiang has stepped out of Xi Jinping's shadow in an effort to fix China's economy. The Wall Street Journal also quoted sources as saying that Li Keqiang was looking for a new prime minister who could counterbalance Xi Jinping. News of Xi Jinping's brain tumor was also reported in the Western media and self-media. The official media reports of the CCP also seem to show signs of internal struggle, echoing the Western media. On May 14th, a nearly 10,000-word speech by Li Keqiang filled the second page of the People's Daily that day, a privilege enjoyed by almost no other leader than Xi Jinping. The speech was titled Integrity, but in fact, it was quite extensive, especially about the economic difficulties during the epidemic prevention period. During the same period, rumors that Xi Jinping had handed over power and was being marginalized were circulating on the internet. On May 15th, the General Office of the CCP Central Committee unexpectedly issued a notice requiring retired cadres and party members to strictly abide by the party's discipline and rules, and not to arbitrarily discuss the major policies of the Party Central Committee, etc., and notified local governments must abide by this policy. Xinhua News Agency and People's Daily reported this news on May 15th and 16th. After that, on May 17th and 18th, Xi Jinping's name did not appear in the headlines of the front page of the People's Daily for 2 consecutive days. However, for 2 consecutive days on the 19th and 20th, Xi Jinping's name occupied 4 major reports on the front page of the People's Daily, while Li Keqiang's name only appeared in a short report accordingly. People's Daily is the official publication of the CCP Central Committee. It is very strange that such a thing happened. Before the rumors of the coup, there was also the phenomenon of touting Xi Jinping as the great leader, which was suspected as Cultural Revolution 2.0 is coming. On April 17th, Liu Ning, the CCP Secretary of Guangxi Province, acclaimed Xi with the slogan, "Always adore the leader, defend the leader, and follow the leader," which was reported 3 days later as a personal cult by Tian Qizhuang, a retired writer from Hebei. Even though Tian is warned not to speak out again, it seems that Liu Ning's support for Xi has not been followed in the official circles. On April 22nd, Xi Jinping was elected as a representative to the 20th National Congress in Guangxi, and the official announcement changed the expression to loyalty to the core, embracing the core, protecting the core, and defending the core, without mentioning the word leader again. The official media Nanning Daily published a report on February 24th this year, saying that the pocketbook praising Xi Jinping would be distributed from time to time to all levels of party organizations in Nanning City, distributed to thousands of households, and vigorously preached. Later, the official media in Guangxi continued to promote the pocketbook in praise of Xi as an authoritative teaching material for grassroots propaganda and a treasure in the hands of the villagers. During the Cultural Revolution, people were handed a copy of the little red cover book, Quotations from Chairman Mao. The public questioned whether the Cultural Revolution is back again. But on May 11th, a netizen retweeted a message that the community had received a notice from Nanning City to recall and destroy all the pocketbooks that had been distributed in Guangxi. Also, the reports that the official media in Guangxi were intensively promoting the praise of Xi's pocketbook have all been deleted from the internet. So, has there been a coup at the top of the Communist Party? According to current affairs commentator Wen Zhao, it is likely that Xi Jinping was pressured to make some tactical concessions, and a coup will not happen. There are 2 types of coups, soft and hard. The most exciting one is a hard coup, where the leader is imprisoned by armed forces and driven out of power. There are 2 scenarios. One is a palace coup, which is usually initiated by the leader's personal guards. The other is a coup initiated by outside military and political leaders who organize an army to break into the capital and seize the highest power. The only precedent of the latter case was the Huairentang incident in Zhongnanhai in October 1976, which was the so-called arrest of the Gang of Four. A soft coup is a sudden challenge at a meeting to force the leaders to agree to certain terms. Most of the top officials of the CCP, including the members of the Politburo and the Standing Committee, lived in Zhongnanhai, a large courtyard with a high red wall in Beijing. Those senior officials live in close proximity. They are close neighbors. In the event of a coup at the top of the CCP, the core force is the Central Security Bureau, a troop of about 1,000 people, commonly known as the Zhongnanhai bodyguards, which is under the control of the CCP Central Office. The responsibility of this force was to protect the so-called party and state leaders in Beijing, as well as the military leaders. In other words, the Central Security Bureau is responsible for the safety of the members of the Politburo and the Central Military Commission in Beijing. They are called bodyguards, but in fact they're also guards and spotters. The change in the role of bodyguard and guard just depends on a phone call from the leader in charge. Related content is introduced in a video Chinese top officials are neighbors. they live and fight in Zhongnanhai courtyard. The central office has 3 main functions. One is the secretarial and confidential services to the leaders in Beijing, to assign secretaries to the top officials, organize meetings, arrange various activities, as well as confidential communications. The second is living services, sending service personnel to the leaders' homes. The third is security and safety, and conducting all-round surveillance of the leaders in Beijing. This is why every CCP's top leader has appointed his most trusted cronies to control the central office and the Central Security Bureau. With Xi Jinping firmly in control of the 3 functions of the central office, it's unlikely to either have a hard palace coup or a soft coup, like an unexpected challenge proposal at a meeting to force a vote. Such a proposal would require complex collusion and organization, and would be very difficult to do without being detected under Xi Jinping's control. Another armed force capable of staging a palace coup in Beijing is the Beijing Armed Police General Force. It's responsible for guarding important government agencies, enterprises, and institutions, including CCTV, the Aerospace Corporation, and transportation hubs, such as train stations and airports. The Beijing Garrison Division, which is often mentioned, is stationed relatively far from the political center of Zhongnanhai, but all these forces are firmly in Xi Jinping's hands. If there is a real coup in Zhongnanhai, it will be difficult for the outside capital troops to arrive quickly. Therefore, as long as Xi Jinping has a firm grip on the 1,000-strong Central Security Bureau, other leaders should not dare to do anything, or else Xi can arrange for his secretary to make a phone call, and the top official's bodyguards will immediately become his arresters. Li Keqiang has already stated in March that this is his last year as premier. Therefore, it is unlikely that he will stay in office for the next term. Likely, Li has 3 directions to go. The first is to retire from politics. The second is to remain on the standing committee of the CCP and become the chairman of the Chinese People's Congress. And the third is that if Xi Jinping becomes the chairman of the CCP and continues to have the highest power in the party, Li Keqiang may become the general secretary of the CCP without any real power. If Li Keqiang steps down, who will take the premiership? As we have analyzed in the video before, Wang Yang is more likely to take the position. According to external assessment, the candidate for the post-20 CPC Congress premiership currently looks like a 4-person race between Wang Yang, Hu Chunhua, Shanghai Party Secretary Li Qiang, and Chongqing Party Secretary Chen Mi'er. The Wall Street Journal quoted sources as saying that Li Qiang was expected by Xi Jinping to be the next premier, but the chaos in Shanghai's lockdown has caused Li Qiang to be criticized by some in the party. The candidates Li Keqiang supported were Wang Yang, chairman of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, and Hu Chunhua, the current vice premier. Another phenomenon in CCP politics is the interference of political patriarchs, where retired members of the Standing Committee or the Politburo can influence the decisions of the current leaders. The reason is that there are many factions within the CCP, and a balance needs to be struck between them. After retirement, if the interests of his former subordinates are affected, or if they have different political views from the current CCP leader, those officials will reflect to the current leader through the patriarchs. This is in fact a buffer mechanism for intra-party struggles. The Beidaihe meeting mechanism at the top of the CCP is a manifestation of this buffering function. On May 15th, the General Office of the CCP Central Committee issued a notice requesting retired cadres and party members not to presume to discuss the major policies of the Party Central Committee, which means that this buffer mechanism will be abolished and the struggle within the party will become more intense in the near future. The 20th Communist Party Congress will be held in the second half of this year, and before and after that, there will be exciting stories of struggles and purges within the party.